welcome. I mean, thanks for coming on my podcast here, and I'm excited to have you. I just want to go over a few things. You're going to do most of the talking. Nobody wants to hear me talk, so I'm just gonna.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, I'm just going to say a few things. There's not a real great platform for the West Coast anglers, and I think that's what we need. And that's the reason why I'm doing this, because I believe that we have some of the best bass anglers, some of the most versatile bass anglers in the country. And I'm sure you can probably name five off the top of your head. And I'm just going to name a couple, Skeet Reese, Ish Monroe, Brett Earler, just to name a few, some of the guys that have been really, Aaron Martin's been dominating, the bass fishing scene back east. Unfortunately, a lot of us have real jobs. I'm retired. My body can't handle going back east and fishing for a living. But when a guy, catches 80 plus pounds in 3 days, I think that really says a lot about who you are as an angler. And I also want everybody to know who you are as a person. So without further ado, congratulations on your WON Bass California Clear Lake Open last week. And I can't wait to hear about I don't need to know the bait you were throwing or where you caught your fish or anything. I just want to know your setup, how you got to where you got, because you've been doing this for a while. So let's just go with that. I'll let you run for a little while. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, and then those kind words I was mentioning about you, it was when you won it was FLW at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 2017, I believe it was. Yeah.
Right. I was fishing that tournament out of my old Green Ranger. We'll talk about her in a little bit, but I remember watching you win. It was really inspiring to watch you win, and the kind words you had on stage and how blown away you were when you won, because you had that little bit of a slower day on day 3, but you just piled it on the first 2 days, had 60 plus pounds for 2 days. And then, you kind of don't think, the doubt sets in your head that you didn't do it. You don't have enough. I can speak from experience, because I had my smallest bag of the tournament on the last day, and that was my biggest doubt or concern. And that's what we all live for, is that feeling right there. Do I have enough? Or, did I seal the deal? Or, oh my gosh, I'm going home pissed or going home sad. And that was my concern, just like you on stage, and you call your wife, you're like, hold on, I got to call my wife. She's about to get on a flight right now. And I still to this day remember that watching weigh-ins. I didn't make the final day in that event. I had some unfortunate circumstances. I think I was like in 12th or 13th. I forget, but I blew a set of fuel, or it was a fuel rail on my old boat with a 175 Merc on it. And then you ended up the next day winning. I went to the Delta and fished there with one of my best friends, and we watched the weigh-ins on the water and watched you hoist that trophy. And Roy Hawk was like right on your heels. I mean, he came out of nowhere. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, Roy's a good friend of mine, actually. And that's another name, back east guy that you put a chatterbait or a crankbait in that guy's hand, and he can be pretty deadly out there. And he's always a threat on the West Coast, whether it's Clear Lake, the Delta, and of course his home at Havasu, Meade, Mojave, and again, versatile lakes that you can catch them flipping, and you can catch them with 5-pound tests. I know we have another mutual friend. I don't even know you that well. Actually, we have a couple mutual friends, one of them being Scott Hellison. I know you guys ham it up. That's the one thing I do know about you guys. And he's probably got the driest sense of humor of any person that I've ever known, other than my wife. My wife's sense of humor is pretty dry too.
They would get along great, because I call him a smart A, but
yeah,
that's what he is. He's very, very, he thinks quickly, and he'll make you like backstep your words real quick if you're not careful on what you say to him. So he's a whiz, and I got to thank him. I mean, I met him a couple, 2, 3 years ago, and I've known him since he was back in Cal Poly. So San Luis Obispo is about 20 minutes south of me, and he went to Cal Poly, our university, and he fished on their Cal Poly team. And he did real well, and he's done well ever since. But I've known him from the back then. I think it was MySpace or early Facebook. Yeah. And but he moved up to this area, bought a house, and we became friends, and now we work together. But I've learned so much from him. Not only him, but like everybody that's I surround myself around.
Yeah.
And if you really want to learn, like if you're willing to learn, like you can learn a whole lot, especially from that guy for sure. If he speaks, you might as well listen. The very few words he says that aren't dry humor, you might want to just listen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I haven't had the opportunity. I actually, same with you. I met him. I was the boat captain when he was a Cal Poly, when he was in the bass team, him and his buddy, his late buddy that passed away. I had them in my boat with me on a couple different tournaments, where I knew then that the guy was going to be a hammer. I mean, he was at Lake Mead throwing 4-pound tests, which is kind of, he is the finesse king. And the last day I watched him, I didn't watch him win, but I watched him ask for 5 bags the last day of the open. And I thought to myself, that sucker, because, his deal is I don't know if he's cheap or he's smart, because he barely burns 3 gallons of gas whenever he fishes any tournament that he ever fishes. You know what I'm saying? He always catches them very, very close to the ramp. That's one thing I do know about him.
Yeah. He's an assassin. I mean, he can get him 3 miles away, but he'll also go get into some pond somewhere no one's ever found because he's the only one that put in the work to get to it. So the guy's a savage, dude. There's no other word to explain him. He's just a different level of competitor, and knowing him elevates you. No matter if you're his close friend or just an acquaintance, if you want to be at his level, you better level up, because he will whoop your butt every single day.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff for sure. I definitely, again, I feel honored. I hate to keep mentioning my age, but at 60 years old, I am watching the start of you guys starting your legacy. And when I say that, like yourself, Scott, Kyle Grover, I work with Kyle. I work at Anglers Marine 2 days a week. And I've tried to get in that guy's head just to be a part of who he is. I mean, he figures out, people think, oh, it's his dad. It's because he works at Anglers Marine. It's because he gets all this information. That dude can catch him no matter what. I promise you. And I've witnessed it. I mean, he's very, very, very impressive. Just watching the way how he's grown and become such a great angler, and that's a lot of you guys are that way. And I back in the old days, there was a group of guys that you felt like you were competing for second place, and a couple names I'm going to mention. Your John Murray, your Jay Ellis, your Jimmy Reese. Those guys were always at the top, and you felt like if you can beat those guys, you were beating someone. It was an accomplishment. Well, now it's the Joe Uribe, the Ken Ma, the Austin Bonjour, the Kyle Grover. There's a group of guys, the Dave Valdivia. There's a group of guys that are always going to be there at the top. And I just have so much respect for you guys, because you just continue. If it's not you, it's Scott. If it's not Scott, it's Kyle. But then, a lot of times you guys follow. So I feel very fortunate when I cash a check against you guys, because you guys just are. It just amazes me. And how did you get there? Where did you come from? I know. And before I say that, you just won a BASS. What was that? A BASS national deal at. Didn't you just win that last year? What was that all about?
That was that was the national. I got to go to the national championship. Is probably what you're thinking. And that was last year in the fall. It was in 2023 in the fall, and I got me, my wife, my dad, and my wife and I, we have 2 girls. We have a 22-month-old daughter and a 9-month-old daughter, and we loaded up my 1500 Chevy pickup, 5.3 Silverado, and drove literally to the other ocean on the other side of the country and back. That was a crazy experience. Holy crap! Are you kidding me? Like with 2 little babies in the back, and everywhere we stopped, it was changing diapers, bottles, snacks. We go to hotels, high chairs, all the totes of baby stuff, clothes, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like bassinets. They're sleeping where they would sleep. You know, their mobile cribs. We would have to tote all that stuff into every hotel room and be out the door the next morning with all those. I mean, me and my dad were doing 2, 3, 4 loads with the furniture carts. It was insane, but we made it there. We didn't do as well as we thought or we wanted. You know, I think we finished like 15th or 16th, but the experience was unreal. And winning this last tournament punched our ticket to go back. So kind of excited about that.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. But to get there though, you won though, right? To get to where you got.
Yeah, it was. I didn't win the tournament, so we went to Lake Powell, and it's the last Western regional we'll ever have. Now they have regionals, but they're all east of like Oklahoma.
Okay.
And they're you know, show up and pay a $600 entry, which essentially would be your $200 entry at 3 of the like club level tournaments. Like sign up in the Valley Bass Club and go to Maloney's, Tolek, and the Delta, and you make the state team out of if you're in the top 10, you make the state team, and then there used to be the regional you'd go to, and if you're the highest finisher out of your region or your state, then you advance on to nationals. And I was fortunate enough. I think I finished like 10th place in the event at Lake Powell, but I was thank God I got lucky because those guys are hammers, and any one of them, they had 9 other spots to beat me. If they finished from 9th to 1st, I don't go.
Yeah,
but I got super lucky. Advanced. I didn't win anything, you know, I just won my state, and then I went to nationals, and that was so cool because it was a 50 boat tournament, 55 boat tournament. There's people from like Spain, Italy, South Africa, you know, every other state in the United States, and they fill your gas tank up for you every day. They paid for your hotel room. You got to take a bus from the hotel to every morning. They had breakfast for you. It was the coolest thing in the world that I fished, and that's all gone now. They like if you made that tournament, your club that you qualified through took aside and set aside money like a retirement out of every one of your entries, and whoever gets to go, they're like, here's $1,800 for gas and travel and stuff. Not going to pay for all of it, but here's $1,800 cash.
Wow.
Good luck. And now it's a little different vibe. Now there's I think there's like a bunch of regionals back east, and they take 20, 30, 40 boats, and then one bass is taking five people per event out of 5, so that's 25 guys.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna total like 250 for the national championship, but it's still a shot to ultimately go to the Bassmaster Classic, which that's all I could care for, really. Like go to the Bassmaster Classic, I'll be happy.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the Bassmaster Classic for me, you know, I remember watching it on TV a few years ago. I was in Las Vegas at a friend's house, and my wife and my buddy's girlfriend was watching it, and my wife sat back and watched it, and we were watching it, and then she's like, "Why is that guy crying?" You know, as he's going around, you know, as if doing his victory lap. I want to say it might have been like Tito Hibden, probably, you know, during that one. And I thought to myself, you know, that's if that was me, I would be crying too. That's like you know, people, especially non-fishermen, they have no idea what the Bassmaster Classic, even now, just being there, participating, what it means, you know. And I actually signed up last year. I fished the Nevada Bass Nation, and the top 10 went to the next level, whatever it is, you know, and I actually finished in 11th place. And it was such a heartbreaker because I thought I was up and just kick everybody's butt, you know, in every tournament from my experience. And again, it just goes to show you how great a fisherman that we have out there right now. Oh, some good
Hammer,
yeah.
hammer. That national championship. So Will Davis Jr. He's a Elite Series guy, and he won the national championship in 2022, but then he won it in 2023 as well, back to back. And
Wow.
I shook his hand. I like locked eyes with him and shook his hand, and I looked at him, and it was like looking at like Tom Brady in the face or somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody that's just a killer. You know, in the
Yeah.
competitive world, there's killers, and that guy, I was like, wow. Okay, there's something. He's like a fourth generation bass fisherman, probably grown up in that. It's crazy. Like we don't get as much. I mean, we get a little bit of the bass fishing out here, but it's different back east.
Yeah.
Some of those guys they've been raised doing it, like on the Alabama River, raised on Fork, raised with hundreds of lakes all around them. I'm thankful for what we have out here for sure, but yeah, that national championship though, holy smokes! Like there's going to be like out of that 250 boat tournament that they're going to have, that me and I guess 10 guys from one bass have qualified so far on the boater side and 10 from the non-boater side. But man, we got our work cut out for us for sure. Them boys back east, they can catch them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it's funny. One of the things I noticed, nobody really mentioned it about Clear Lake, the last tournament, the one that Ken Mall won, and the one that, you know, obviously that you won, is there's no real big, there hasn't been a real big buzz about forward facing sonar. I don't know if you noticed that, you know, in these last couple of tournaments at Clear Lake. And I think, you know, I think that's because I'm not saying it didn't play in this tournament at all, but it just seemed like that it was just raw talent that dominated in this tournament. What do you think about that?
I think I mean I'm always scoping, and since I've got my forward facing unit, even if I'm in a shallow situation, like there's sometimes I turn it off completely, which is, I shouldn't say I'm always scoping, right? I'd say 90% of the time I'm scoping, 10% of the time I'm not, and that's usually like the last couple hours of the day if I'm really shallow, looking for bed fish, hunting with my eyes. This event for me, live scope was a really big player for me as far as where those fish were when we got there and where they transitioned to. When we got there, they were further out on all those stop signs, just sitting out behind the bucks. Like I call them the groups of girls. The groups of girls were just behind their boyfriends, and the boyfriends were all up like, come on ladies, we made these beds, they're all pretty, you can see every rock in it, like come on. And they were just waiting. They were waiting out there. I know you know what I'm talking about because you won a tournament doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And you were catching groups of girls, and they were just they move. They do move. But for a few days, and it's similar event when you won, because I remember it was like warm, and then cold. And then and then it broke away. But this time it was like cold after it'd been warm, cold snaps, snow, frigid temperatures, rain, warming trend. Those fish went back in pre-spawn. They were eating a little bit more, and those girls were eating a little bit more. And that's just what I did, is I focused on those fish a little further out, and then I would transition to the fish like following them moving to the bank.
Yeah. When it goes right, it goes right, and you could sit back and say that exactly what you said. You know, when I won, there was a shad spawn, and it was an experience that still to this day, you know, the Alabama rig was legal in that tournament, but I also, you know, as you know, I caught some fish on a single swim bait. The crazy thing was, as I was reeling my bait in, shad were trying to spawn with my bait. You know, it was the coolest.
Like what they do with a spinner bait sometimes.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that since then. That was 2017. I have yet to see a real good shad spawn, I think, since 2017.
It's a hitch year now.
Yeah, definitely, and it's pretty neat. Now I run two black boxes on the front of my boat. I run it in scout mode, and then I also run it in forward facing. I have Lowrance, you know, HDS Unit 12s, and what's cool about the scout mode is you can see schools of hitch on the scout boat. They don't have to be in front of you. They can be left, they can be right, and you could see them as clear as day in scout mode, you know, and so that was the coolest thing about being able to see schools of hitch swimming around. The last day I got to experience, I only really got to experience, I had a horrible practice. Because of the weather, I had a horrible practice. My best day was maybe 20 pounds, you know, and then I had one day that I never got a bite the whole day. But the last day I spent about 10 minutes in front of the casino, and my graphs were like black with fish and bait and everything. And I made a cast with my trademark gold, you know, Blade Runner spin tricks, but I used a 5.8 high tech. I wanted a bigger profile, and I caught a 5-pounder in the last 5 minutes. And I thought that was, you know, I thought that was going to be enough for me to cash a check. But I ended up falling one place short. But I was amazed at the fishery that I was seeing on my graph in those last 15 minutes. It was pretty impressive.
That lake's phenomenal. It really is. Like, there's not really another lake that I've ever seen that's that healthy with every species of fish. Like when you were seeing your screen like that, there's buffalo carp, there's hitch, there's bass, there's crappie, like hundreds of all of them, and they move together. It's pretty wild, dude. That lake is. And so you were asking a little bit about me. Like I grew up fishing that lake, and I grew up fishing a lake right here in my home, like it's 20 minutes from my house. But Santa Margarita Lake, you've probably heard of it.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Have you?
I've never fished it. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's really small. A lot of people don't really know, you know, and some people are probably going to be mad that I said the name of it, but it's okay. It doesn't really matter because people don't. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that cool of a lake, but it is a gem. But it's similar to Clear Lake in a sense, like how those fish bite. A lot of our anglers that fish Margarita a lot all win boats up at Clear Lake, and there's like a really weird pattern of our guys, and I'm super prideful of like the guys that I compete against because they're just, and I don't want to sit and name them all. They know who they are, but they have all dominated at Clear Lake for a long time, lots of them, and I think it's because of our training ground, right? Like we have these little lakes that they're just a weird mix. We're right in between from where you guys are at in Southern California to like we're in Central. We're not even. I'm 2 hours to San Jose, and I'm 2.5 hours to LA with no traffic. Yeah, like I could go through Hollywood, which that'll never happen. Like I drove through there at 3 a.m, like 5-6 months ago, and there was traffic. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. Yes. So, do they eat margarita mutilator at Santa Margarita?
Oh yeah. That's the purple worm, baby. They love it. And I don't know if it was named after that. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But I've like growing up, like that was the number one worm I bought going into like Jim's Pro Bass or Tackle Warehouse Tackle Warehouse started as like 20 dudes working in a little retail shop. And now they got 2 warehouses. They got Georgia and Slow, and they got thousands of employees. It's pretty wild. Right. But anyway, you could walk in there, buy those, and split shotting them or drop shotting them back in the day, and to this day, and it's the same at Clear Lake. It's the exact same thing. Like like you made the gold spin trick famous. Like Wayne Brazil made a purple worm famous. Steve Kennedy made a HUD famous. Like, but there's. Anyway, like I could go on and on about that, but Margarita's a special little lake.
Yeah, and I do know I know the owner of RoboWorm, and absolutely that worm did come from Santa Margarita Lake, so I do know that for a fact. So there you go. Yeah, cool. Yeah, a 100% fact. Yeah. What about Austin Minnow? I fished there quite a few times. How far away is that for you?
Nosti is about 40 minutes north of me, and its sister Lake San Antonio is about 50 minutes, and they're really close to each other, but they're just completely different lakes. So San Antonio is smallmouth, largemouth, real desolate, sandy bottoms. Well, now there's been a drought. Now there's a lot of brush and stuff in the water from when lakes come up and down. It was really, really low for a long time. All the lakes got affected by it. It seems like all the lakes that were even just barely clinging on, even after last year's winter, all came up this year. Casitas finally got full. You know, Lopez Lake, another one of my lakes I can talk about in a minute, south of me, it went over the spillway last year, but Trinity was kind of hanging on last year pretty low. I think it's 30 feet from the top now. So all of California's reservoirs are looking pretty solid from, thank God, from the last 2 years. So
Yeah.
of rain, we needed it. Even the Colorado River is benefiting from it, right? So like Lake Mead's
Yeah.
at almost where it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, Lake Powell, that whole Colorado River chain's getting it. And but San Antonio has got all that brush in it. It's smallmouth and largemouth, and then Nacimiento is all spotted bass. Like the one, I mean, you've fished it before. You've probably, I think you fished it with Dan Frazier, if I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, I was actually in a competition, as individual competition. It was like a worldwide, I think it's called real time fishing, where whatever lake you're on, you compete. You have 4 hours and you compete. And I won. I won with the fish because it's numbers, and I caught 35 fish in 4 hours, all spotted bass, and it was so much fun. That place is a lot of fun. Yeah,
It's
Dan.
insane.
Yeah.
I remember Dan telling me he took you fishing, and that was, if I remember correctly, it was like kind of around COVID,
Yeah.
or maybe. And that place, like that's when I met Scott around that time. But Scott bought a house and he got to fish that place quite a bit during COVID, and he was catching 100 fish a day, you know, 13, 14 pound limits, which is kind of unheard of on that lake for the most
Yeah.
part. It's usually 10, 11 pounds. It wins most events. It is spotted bass. It's nothing too impressive, but as far as catching fish and letting your pole get bent, it's great for anybody that just wants to catch a whole bunch of fish. If you
Yeah.
just want to catch them, or if you got like a young kid or grandkids, oh man, that is the funnest place in the world, because you give them a super spook or a plopper, and if they can work a super spook, if not, you just reel the whopper plopper in and get the top water bites all day long. And if you don't want to do that, you can do literally anything else you want to do and go
What's the
catch fish.
What's the name of that super spook with the chartreuse back on it? That
Okie shad.
Okie shad. I thought so. Yeah, they cream that thing there on that lake.
They love it.
Yeah, yeah. A secret bait, if you want to call it that, that I turned Dan onto is Depths. I think it's called a buzz jet, and they make it in like a shad pattern one, and I murdered the spotted bass on that thing. I mean, a lot of times I just throw it out and let it sit. It didn't even move, and they would just cream it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I've thrown the buzz jet, but I've never thrown it in Aussie. I'll have to try it.
Yeah, try it at Austn in the summertime, because it was pretty. We had some pretty warm days, and it was fun. It was there weren't too many lakes that were open, I think, and that lake was pretty crowded with the skiers and the jet skiers and everything. And yeah, we had a blast. It was fun, a lot of fun. But yeah, Nacimiento is a great lake. There was a lot of people during COVID for sure around, skiing around and everything. But you know, the outdoors was a place to be back there in 2020. You know, and Dan, as you know, I don't know how long you've known Dan. I've known him for probably 30 plus years. You know,
I haven't known him that long.
Yeah. Yeah, we go back a long way, you know. I mean, and another name that I want to throw at you. So I can't remember what the year it was, but I want to say it was about 5 years ago. A guy called me up and said, "Hey, I'm going to fish the Clear Lake Open, and I'm going to fish it with you." And at the time, the guy was about 80 plus years old. I love the smile on your face. You know exactly where I'm going, don't you?
Bill Travelsteed.
Yes, Bill Travelstead. Yes, sir.
I butchered his last name, but that guy is a veteran. I remember all my veterans because they outwork everybody.
Yep. Yep. He spoke so highly of you, and I didn't know you at the time. And I'm like, who is this? He's like, man, Austin Bonjour. I've tried to go and fish with him and blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm like, okay, if he's a friend of yours, Bill, a friend of mine, you know? And yeah, that guy, you know, he passed away. I think, you know, he passed away a few years back.
Unfortunately.
And, I absolutely love that guy. I spent the night at his house a few nights, when I would go to Havasu, and he was a trooper at
Dude,
80.
okay, so when I drew him, I had no seat. He was 90 years old, I think. 90 something, and he was telling me about all the surgeries he's had, how much metal's in him, titanium this, hips, and I've been blown up this many times and shot at this many times. And I was like, I don't have a seat for you. I'm so sorry. And he's like, I don't need no seat.
Yeah.
Let's get after it. And we had so much fun. That was a Cal Open. It was a Cal Open, and I smoked him that day. I had a 8.5 big fish. I think I got one of those top 3 big fish checks that day, which was really cool. And I found myself somewhere in the top 10 after that day. And I was just so impressed on how that guy, he was like Rick Clunt.
Yeah.
But like, as far as like his stature and how he fished, and he didn't give up, he didn't complain, not once. I miss him. I did see that he passed away, and I wonder if he was one of the guys looking after me. You could think of all in your head, all the guys that your fishing buddies, your family, your close friends that have passed and are gone. And when something magical happens, it's like, what are they? Are they doing something? Are they throwing a little luck your way? Are they, and Bill's one of those guys, like Bobby Doth, one of my dear friends that just passed away from cancer. And miss Bobby a lot. So does Dan. The whole Central Coast misses Bobby. And I think Bobby was with me. I really think he was.
Yeah. Before I got my first, major win, my dad had passed. My dad had already passed away, and those are the things. I think those are the biggest regrets. But at the same time, you feel like there's a presence of certain people in your life when things are going right, when things are going well, because I don't sleep well at tournaments. It doesn't matter if I'm in 100th place or if I'm in the first place. I was fortunate enough to be in first place going in the last day, when I won. And but during that last day, there was a certain calm that came over me, and I felt like there was a presence of people just, saying, calm down, calm down, calm down. Now, granted, I didn't think I won the tournament because my last day was, I had 16 pounds, but still 16 pounds compared to 30-pound bags that I had been catching the 2 days prior. I didn't think I was going to. I thought, wow, you're in first place and you just blew the tournament.
I bet you were stressed out.
Yeah, that's an understatement. And so after it's all over, you look back and you go, yeah, I could see where that guy was with me during that time, especially my dad. My dad, he loved fishing. He supported me throughout my whole fishing career. He always wanted to know how I did in every tournament. And we need those people, for sure.
Your pops was with you, guaranteed. Because I know when my dad goes, he's going to be right there with me every time.
Yeah. And every time I go to Havasu, I think of Bill, because that's where Bill spent his last, his last breath. And I can't help but think about him and his wife Sonia. They're just great people. And it's nice.
They don't get much better.
No, and I'm hoping that when I die, somebody will say the same thing about me. But I'll never. I just feel like I'll never live up to the type of people that some of these guys have been in my life. There's some real genuine people out there. And I think we all have them, and that's what keeps us on the straight and narrow. And just keeps us from getting ourselves in trouble.
Right.
But what's
for sure.
What's your wife's name?
My wife's name is Rain.
Rain?
Rain like the weather. Yep.
Oh, awesome. I love it. What's your kid's name?
So we got Rain, Aurora, and River.
Wow. Rain, Aurora, and River. Okay. All right. And what is the origin of your name? Your last name? Is it French or tell me about it?
Yeah, so it's it's French, and that's about all I know. I don't really know a lot about my heritage. I know my dad's dad last name was Bonjour, and my dad and I have never really discussed it. I guess I don't know much about my heritage and where that name comes from, but I do know I'm French, I guess, or maybe Louisiana, a little bit Cajun, maybe.
I love it.
I've heard that. You know, I'm definitely French, a little Cajun, Old English, a little bit of German. But as far as like my great ancestors and stuff, I don't know a whole lot about right at this time. Anyway, I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
and it takes rain to make river, right? So we have rain and we have river,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
we got an AB, we got Austin Bonjour and Aurora Bonjour, and we got River Bonjour, and we got Rain Bonjour. So we got 2 RBs and 2 ABs. Not
Yeah.
bland, but
Okay.
how it
And you
turned out.
and you're a plumber by trade, right?
Yep, plumber by trade.
Yeah. And what kind of, you told last time I talked to you, you said sometimes you're digging holes, sometimes you're doing all kind. What kind of plumber? Tell us about your job and what you do.
We do it all. I mean, we from installing toilets, ripping out water heaters, leaks in grounds, leaks in ceilings, emergency calls, stoppages. It's a lot of detective work, and I love it that way because I love plumbing because it's problem solving. And you got to be if you're a good fisherman, you're a good problem solver. You got to be able to you got to be able to make something out of nothing sometimes. And that's what it boils down to, right? When you're what you're given, and that's how it is in plumbing. You're given very little as far from like the customer, what's happening. I have a leak here, water's showing out of my little concrete seawall right here when my irrigation's on. I was 32,000 gallons over on my last month's water bill. I think it's coming from my irrigation, and it's like, well, let's stop and widen the picture here. Did you look at your water meter and turn your ball valve off at your house and know that you're clear from your meter to your house, right? So you do that first. It's just a little checklist, and then you open up that ball valve and you hear it pressurized. You know you got a leak in the house, but then you can just start taking the next steps, right? Then you go from your ball valve to your irrigational, all your irrigation. You go from your ball valve to your pool equipment, anything you got. But you kind of got to just do a lot of that detective work, and it's the same thing in fishing.
Yeah.
Um, you service work and plumbing, you never know what you're going to get. Every call is so different, even though they're kind of the same. Like they're all different.
Yeah.
Not every wall's square, not every wall's level, or not every floor is level. You kind of, you know, every house is different. Every homeowner is different. You got to handle every situation different and kind of think on your feet. And I like that about
Fire
plumbing.
fire service was the same way. You know, you just never know what you're going to get. You know, I have stories. I have crazy stories that I can tell. You know, and stories I can probably write a book about. You know, the crazy things that different calls and different
I'm
things,
sure.
you know, that happen. Yeah. So what's the future? What does the future look for you as far? I think are you going to Havasu for one bass? Are you going to MLF? What's the future looking like?
I'm gonna do the. I want to look forward to that book you write one day,
Hmm.
and that I would like to read that. I'd buy that because I appreciate people like you, fire service men and women, and everybody, and that all our blue, right? All our policemen and girls out there are veterans. I love them all. I love Dan Frazier. He was in the fire industry as
Yeah.
well. You know, like everybody I've met that serves this country one way or another is just one of the most solid people I've ever met. And so I appreciate people like you. I really do.
Thank you. I
From the
appreciate that.
bottom of my heart. Like when I drive by fire trucks and I'm honking and wait, I'm the crazy guy
Yeah,
waving at fire truck.
that's cool.
Cal Fire keeps our state alive, dude.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
We wave
those men
back.
and right? You know, your local fire are the ones that are saving people in car accidents, and paramedics that are helping old ladies get to the hospital, and putting,
Yeah.
I mean, everything. I mean, I can go on and on and on, and I would buy your book for sure.
Oh,
But I'm gonna fish the MLF. I jumped in on the MLF training this year, and I'm gonna do the whole deal and go to the entry fee free championship thing, and if we make it, and I'm gonna I did the Cal Open and the U.S. Open as far as one bass this year because Scott and I work together and we kind of alternate tournaments, so can't fish them all.
okay.
He's jumping in on all the one bass stuff, and I'm jumping in on the MLF and a couple. I can't miss the Cal Open and U.S. Open. I've been wanting to win those for a long time, so
Yeah. Yeah.
got one of them off the list. So
Yeah.
finally,
How about that? I think, you know, if you were to give me it'd be a tough one. I mean, I would love to win a US Open. I've been fishing the U.S. Open, not every year, but I've been fishing them since 1987. Okay, which is a long time.
Yeah.
And I've,
That's like Rick Fun winning classics.
yes. My best finish was second place. I actually have a second place and a third place. In 1994, I came in third place in U.S. Open. Aaron Martens won it. No, I'm sorry. Aaron Martens came in second. Kevin Wiggins won it. And then in 2014, 10 years later, is that 10 years or 20 years later? That's 20 years later. I came in second in the U.S. Open, and Clifford Perch won it. One of his, I think he's won like 3 or 4 of them.
Yep.
And I came in second in that one. And yeah, those have been my 2 best U.S. Open finishes. And
those are really good finishes. So
yeah, and it doesn't get any easier. You know, this last year, I mean, obviously the U.S. Open was at Lake Mojave, which I was at the bottom of the barrel there, you know, which I just never figured anything out. I don't know. I don't know. I think I was trying too hard or something, but that was Kyle won it. But yeah, it was. I love it. Every year, every time I fish a tournament, to me, it's the Bassmaster Classic. I don't care if it's a club tournament or, you know, or the real deal. I just love to compete. You know,
you and I both.
Oh.
We're the weird cult people out here in the West.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, and I played sports. You know, I did some sports when I was young. I played football, ran track, did baseball stuff. But basketball is my passion. You know, I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, man. Well, shoot, man. We're almost in an hour. Any last words you want to talk about before we close it out?
No, I know. Sorry, we kind of got off topic. Didn't really touch on like my background, where I came from, and stuff like that. But we kind of did pretty good, I'd say. Kind of touched on most of it. When you start talking bass fishing with someone, we can start getting distracted about swim baits or flipping or frogging or who won this tournament. I did this. I mean, I appreciate you having me on. It's like talking to one of my buddies, and you and I could just talk fishing. Because I've always been saying, if I can hold a conversation with you and you can hold a conversation with me, we're meant to be friends. Because there's not a whole lot of bass fishermen out there in the grand scheme of things. There's not a whole lot of us, and I just thank you for having me on.
No, yeah, and I hopefully I'll be able to have you on again. I
just got to keep winning, right?
No, you don't have to keep winning. You know, it's for me, it's a personal. I feel like it's just me like you said, just me talking to my friends. And if people want to join and watch and click and whatnot, then that's up to them. But at the end of the day, at least I have something that I can look back at and be proud of. You know, I'm proud of you for what your accomplishment. But the fact that I've been able to, you know, that we're able to talk about plumbing and you know, that's not even fishing stuff. Like you said, we never even touched on the pattern, the baits, the whatnot, you know, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, most of the people that watch these or listen to these podcasts is they can catch fish. You know, we could all catch fish, you know, and when the conditions are right, doing what we do best, like you talk about split shot. I've cast a lot of check split shotting, you know, we can all catch fish doing a lot of different techniques. And I think it's just fun being able to, you know, you think, oh, I remember when I first won my first tournament, I thought to myself, oh, this is easy. And then the next tournament I end up bombing, you know, or the year after that, the conditions are exactly the same and I don't catch them. There's just such a variety of our personalities and the personality of a bass that it's just a neat experience for us to be able to have that perfect 3 days of tournament fishing where everything goes your way and you
so rare,
you know.
Yeah, it's so rare.
Yeah, you know, you look at you know, Kevin Van Dam or, you know, someone like that who's won, or Jacob Wheeler right now who's actually smashing everybody. And
guy's a phenomenon.
Yeah, you know, and you think, get in that guy's head for a half hour if you can, you know, would just be crazy. And actually, he's a friend of mine. And once I get through all these West Coast guys, hopefully I'll be able to have him on for 45 minutes. You know,
that would be cool to interrogate that guy, or just let him ramble for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but anyway, well, yeah, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for your time. Get back to those kids.
And, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Todd. Big Daddy, I appreciate you. And yeah, I can't wait to be back on.
You got it. You'll see it on YouTube here in the next couple of days.
Right on. Thanks, Todd.
Right. Take care. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
You got it. Talk to you later.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
I think we're called on the fish. What do you think?
Is it two, baby? Oh my God, a ton.
I think this color works. What do you think?
Oh, you think so? You got some confidence in it? What is that, an 8?
Give me another one.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice how big it was. Holy shit. Oh, he's not even stuck in the net, baby. Take that sucker. Oh no, here it is. I got you. Here you go. Take it. God
Put them
damn.
on the big side.
Nah, you sure?